it's your girl Nancy Red, and this is season 3 of Mompreneurs, where each week we celebrate beautiful Black mompreneurs who are killing it as both a mom and an entrepreneur. And this week's guest is the ultimate mompreneur. I have to say, Eunique Jones Gibson, over a decade ago, as a corporate marketer in New York City, got a camera. And with that, as she said, she realized that a dream was actually chasing her. She wasn't chasing the dream, but we've all been chasing her on social media. I have followed her for over a decade, and it has been a joy to watch her evolution from founding the groundbreaking I Am Trayvon Martin campaign to the Because of Them campaign that stumbled into a beloved multifaceted platform. Her incredible hustle is inspiring, and her stories behind the hustle are even better. And watching her continue to expand and grow into games like Culture Tags, which we were all excited to help support on Kickstarter, to right now what she has going on with her incredible company that was inspired by her being a little perturbed at her baby girl's pull-up. She is now the founder and CEO of the amazing purpose-driven and inclusivity-centered baby essential brand Happy Hues Company. And Happy Hues can be found right now in Target nationwide. I could go on and on. I want to hear all about, I want all of you to know about her journey. And I think we just need to hear from Eunique herself. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Nancy.
It's very exciting to talk to you. I mean, well, I guess we have to start with big ups to you because Happy Hues trading pants are adorably named big ups, and they are now, as of late August, in Target nationwide. Are you still on cloud nine?
I am. I'm still riding the wave, still on cloud nine, still pinching myself. It's very surreal to say the least.
Well, what's so cool about it is you made this happen. You completely from the ground up, you had this idea and you strategically over the last 4 or 5 years said, okay, I can methodically put in place the steps, not just to have all the incredible companies that you've already had, but like what has the potential to be a multi-billion dollar conglomerate. When you first started with the idea, these pull-ups aren't speaking to me. Did you think you would get here in the next 5 years?
No. When I realized they weren't speaking to me, I did not immediately think it was my undertaking to bring something more diverse and inclusive to the market. I knew that it was absent, but I also felt like the idea was so big once I finally started to digest it that it was too big for little old me to bring it to fruition. And then once I finally decided I would do it, no, I can't say that I knew I would be here in 5 years, but I definitely thought I would be somewhere amazing with it.
Well, you are somewhere amazing with it. You're in Targets nationwide, and we can't wait to see what else happens. But the fun thing about this is so many times we think that being a mother is going to keep us from our pursuits. And you are a mother of three. You have actually seen your entrepreneurship shaped by your children, wouldn't you say? It's being a family woman that seems to have been the impetus for a lot of the incredible work that you've done.
100%. My kids, I can literally tie every big idea to one of my kids. And so being a mother for me has been the greatest inspiration when it comes to the things that I have been able to create or put into the universe. 100% tie it to each one of my kids.
Yes, and I want to talk all about it because you and I share a lot in common. In particular, our kids are the reason that we are doing this, if only because we got bills. But before we get too much into the mompreneurship, let's talk about who makes you a mom. Tell us about your household, your wonderful hubby, and your 3 kids.
Yes, so I have to credit my husband, Chris Gibson, for making me a mother. Been married for 16 years. And then I have three amazing children or kids, Chase, Amari, and Sage. So I have 2 boys and I have a little girl.
And how did you meet your husband?
I met my husband at the mall, which is fun because I feel like we don't hear stories like that anymore. But I was working at T-Mobile and he was working at KB Toys. And I was on a lunch break and went in to buy some toys for my nephew. And I thought that he was very attractive, but I also was like, he works at KB Toys. Nothing against it. But for me, I was in college at the time and I just took note and kept it moving and introduced myself. But I think maybe a year later, I was in New York. I was on an internship, interning with Sony, and I was bored and I was online and I was on MySpace and I saw his picture and I was like, oh, there's Chris. And then I saw like all of his profile and the college he went to. And just as I got a really good feel for his personality, he was really funny. And I sent him a message like, hey, what's up? It's Unique. And we started talking on MySpace and it moved to AIM at the time, Instant Messenger. And when I came back from my internship in New York, we went out and we've been inseparable ever since.
This brings me so much joy. This is incredible because you organically met, and
Hmm.
he's been part of the building process with you ever since.
Yes, he has. He has. He's been, it would be literally impossible to do what I've been able to do or what we've been able to accomplish without partnership. I think that so much of our success, especially as women, if we are in relationship with someone, or if we have a partner, I believe that our success is really contingent upon the partner that we choose because we need that success and we need that support. And so, yeah, I 100% attribute so much of where we are, where I am, to my husband.
So 16 years ago, y'all tied the knot. And which came first, motherhood or entrepreneurship?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say entrepreneurship because I've really been an entrepreneur since I was young. I figured out how to sell video games. I was selling candy in school, buying bags of candy for $10 and selling it and making
That was
$30.
that was the hustle.
So that was the hustle. So I have always been an entrepreneur, and it's something that I've seen throughout my life. My grandmother owned establishments. She owned a bar, West Oak Lane, and she owned apartment buildings. And then my other grandmother was the first lady in a church. So my grandfather had a church that he built from the ground up in the nation's capital. And so it was always just in me. But after Chris and I got married, I would say maybe when Chase was one, I started to take photographs and actually started to charge people. So that was like the official, okay, I have an LLC and I'm going to really see where this can go type of move.
I think that's so crucial because you had good role models. I think one of the reasons I do this podcast is because my grandmother was a mompreneur too. She actually started a country store because she couldn't work because she had four little kids. So she needed something that she could keep her kids and make some money at the same time. And seeing how when you follow in their footsteps and how you actually started doing this is really interesting because you were working a job. You had a 1 year old. You were in corporate marketing at Microsoft, right?
Correct.
And how did the camera come about?
Yeah, so I was actually in online advertising at Microsoft right before it just like exploded. And I was a decent performer and got some sort of like bonus. I forget what the reward system was there, but whatever it was, I was a great performer and I got to select something. And I selected a camera. And I started taking photographs on the weekends because New York was very new to me. It was very foreign. And I've always had an appreciation for art and, in particular, photographs. And so I was able to get the camera with whatever points I had. And that's when photography really started to develop within me as a way to convey a message, especially combining that with my passion for marketing.
And this was about 15, 14 years ago?
This was about 16 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So, but it's
Yeah,
before everyone was doing this. So, I think one of the great
correct.
things about to contextualizing your journey is very important because you were at the tippy top of social media, of all of these diverse and photos or just evocative photos. You were creating things that did not exist. These categories exist in part because of your ingenuity.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I guess you could say so.
When you're taking these pictures and when you're uploading them and when you're sharing them, were you aware of this at the time, or were you just kind of doing it because it felt good?
So are we talking about specific campaigns? So yeah, so it started off with just like me taking photographs of like families and things like that. And to your point, was very involved with like the advent of like social media. I remember working for Microsoft at the time when we were managing Facebook ads. That's when Facebook had like the banner ads, and we were responsible for managing those. And so I've always been like in the mix. I remember when Twitter was created and we were having conversations internally at Microsoft, like there was this big debate, like, are you going to join? Like, because we didn't know what it was at that time, but we were definitely in the mix and had a responsibility to get up to speed very quickly as this new wave of social media was becoming a thing. And so fast forward, the more I was in the marketing space and the more I was taking photographs, there also started to there was family capturing families, beautiful families of all different hues and sizes and shapes. And then what ended up happening was, I think once Trayvon Martin was murdered, that's when I it really clicked for me the ability to combine my expertise in advertising and marketing with my passion for photography and storytelling and really merge the two, leveraging this platform or this medium that I had grown up with, being social media, as a way to put those messages into the universe. And so I, it was like probably one of the few, right? Like that photography campaign really just captured a sentiment that so many people shared all over the country, all over the world. And for me, was really like that aha moment of how social media could be leveraged for good, and we could take these horrible instances and use them as a way to promote a message that could effectuate change.
And what a perfect storm, because you worked for Microsoft. You understood intrinsically this was the wave, because a lot of us, myself included, those of us who are millennials, late millennials, we're kind of late getting on the bandwagon. And when we did start on social media, it was as purviewers. It was not necessarily as commentators, right? And you were one of the voices that I just very much gravitated towards. It was very exciting, and how interesting that do you ever ponder, what if I hadn't taken that Microsoft job, right? Like that job seems to have been so influential in your initial knowledge of how the internet works, how ads work, how marketing works on social media.
Oh, absolutely. Microsoft changed my life. I remember sitting I was in class, and I remember looking at the email that I got from Microsoft that said, it was a recruiting email that said, do you want to be a part of the $4 billion advertising revolution? And that was from the recruiter. And so 100% taking that job really exposed me to so much. But I've also have to credit people like Kathy Hughes from Radio One,
Mhm.
whom I was able to go to Radio One after school with my cousin, who was the marketing director, and just see how marketing worked. I was able to go to concerts and understand the importance of guerrilla marketing. And or a good friend of the family, Gloria Nodden, who was the entertainment director at BET when I was growing up. Like I really would accredit it to Village and people who just really took me under their wings and saw how creative I was and how out of the box and fearless I was, and really kind of just shaped and directed me in the way or in the towards advertising. And Microsoft was, of course, that first opportunity that I was able to take advantage of fresh out of college.
I love that. The number of people who've told me Kathy Hughes has changed their life is, I mean, I cannot count. The woman is so far reaching.
100%. She's an icon. We kiss the ring. Kathy Hughes is the one.
And so through that, here we are. You are in place. All of the lessons from people who poured into you because they saw something in you. You're able to actually start making change. And you started, like you said, with the I Am Trayvon Martin campaign, and then a year later, what happened?
A year after the I Am Trayvon Martin campaign, I think Zimmerman was just acquitted or something like that happened. And I was just so frustrated. I was like, man, like, how do we refute these stereotypes and how do we create something positive so that children like mine can have something else to look forward to? And we were approaching Black History Month, and there was at this time there was no zero thought given to Black History Month campaigns beyond talking about Dr. King or Rosa Parks as a kind of like a footnote. And so I saw an opportunity to take the learnings from the campaign that I launched from I Am Trayvon Martin and do another photography campaign that married copy. And instead, I was like, how do we make Black history fresh? And I came to that by deciding that, hey, I'm going to take these little kids and I'm going to dress them up like these trailblazers that may be controversial, but have definitely torn down barriers and bursted through glass ceilings. And I'm going to marry that with some of their quotes. And I'm going to launch a campaign to hopefully get people excited about Black History Month. And that's what happened.
Because of them, we can.
Correct, correct. And
I've actually, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say when I launched it, we talk about our kids. My youngest son was 4 years old at the time, I believe, and I was doing things like because of him we can, or
I
because
remember.
of her we can, and then because of them we can, and then I remember my son just getting confused by all of the different iterations, which is how it got merged into one, which is because of them we can.
Bless the confused child. Because it's such a succinct way of, I mean, you have a very good way of the hook, right? Because every movement needs a little bit of juice. You need some verb, and the verb behind "because of them we can" was absolutely incredible. But even then, this was supposed to be a Black History Month campaign. You were like 28 days and we out. When did you realize we're not out?
Yeah, so I think at the time I was working, I had relocated back to the DC area and I was working for Custom Ink, leading their social media marketing efforts. And I was kind of just doing this on the side. And I remember being in a one-on-one with my manager at the time, and I think it was the day that I had released the Kerry Washington image, and Kerry Washington was tweeting me. And I was like in this one-on-one with my manager, and I'm like looking down at my phone, and I'm just sitting there like, yeah, I don't know. In my mind, I started to really ponder what it could mean to continue. And then I ended up on a call with Tom Joyner, and we were talking about the campaign. And Tom Joyner said something like, "You can't drop the mic now." And that was a moment where I was like, okay, I've got to figure out. Surely there are over 28 individuals that we should all know about. And then I just figured out a way to, I can do this on the weekend and just do an image a day.
And it turned into something much more than an image a day. We went to the book, which, you brilliantly self-published. What was the decision how did you decide to go from the campaign to the image a day, to the website, to the book, and then, of course, the infamous box, which again, nothing like this existed at the time.
Yeah, so it really just came from paying attention to what people were requesting. And so once I was like 10 photos in, like the 10th day of Black History Month in 2013, people were like, hey, these are great. I would, love to have a poster of this. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll give you a poster. So I figured out a printer and put a website together and started selling posters. And then once we got towards the end of the month, it was like, hey, I really can't have 28 posters in my classroom or in my home. I would love a calendar. I was like, oh, okay, let's do a calendar. And then when I decided to keep it going, it's like, well, that's a lot of calendars. What if we just did a book? And just figured it out. I was like, okay, I'll take all these photos, I'll figure out how to self-publish this thing. And it was a lot of long nights and early mornings and a lot of hustle, a little too much at times. And I just feel like I cracked the code in understanding how to self-publish, how to get the images together, how to find a designer. I just kept saying yes. I think that's what it boils down to. As I was building it and as people were asking for things, I knew it was limitless. And so I rarely said no. I said yes to everything that whole year. And it just kept growing as a result.
Yes, and you're very savvy about the research that you did. It's interesting. It's interesting that each time in your life correlates with a different a different company you're working for? Was Custom Ink, was the knowledge you were getting at Custom Ink helpful in understanding this aspect of the business?
Uh, no, I wouldn't say it was. I think what happened at Custom Ink and Mark's founder, super dope dude, I was really frustrated at Custom Ink because I had like all these ideas for campaigns that I thought they should be doing to really just break through the noise and be innovative and really set themselves apart. And everything that I proposed was shot down. It was like, no, that's too big, or no, I don't see how we would execute that. And so I was like, well, forget it. I'll just start doing my own thing on the side. And that's really how I started taking my creativity that was, I felt blocked at work. And I started really trying to pour that into my weekends and my evenings. And I will never forget when I Am Trayvon Martin kind of took off as a social impact campaign. The team said something to me. And then when Because of the Weekend took off, I remember I want to say it was the CEO said, like, why don't you create one of those types of campaigns for us? And I was like, yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. But by then it was too late. I was putting in my resignation.
Love it. Okay, no, see, here's the thing. I did not say if it was a positive interaction. I said, how did it influence you? It seems like it influenced you a lot. You wouldn't
In
be
a great
here.
way.
You
100%.
wouldn't be here. You would be making campaigns for other people. So anyone listening to this who's frustrated with their day job not listening to them, what do you think they should do with that frustration? Should they just push it on inside?
No, I think you figure out a different distribution channel to get your ideas out. If it's not going to happen in your 9 to 5, obviously do what you need to do from a work perspective to feed your family or to put food in your belly. But I think you got to find ways outside of those parameters to get your gifts out there. It's why even at my company now, separate from the Happy Hues Company, I have culture brands. And I'm always telling my team, like, hey, if you got an idea, no idea is crazy. Like, let's talk about it. If you got a dream, let's discuss it because there could potentially be a pathway here to make it happen. Because I know what it feels like to be creative, to have ideas, to know that you have value, and for people to tell you, like, I just want 10% of your brain. That's just not sustainable.
Yes. And this is actually the beauty of it, right? The frustration can be turned into something that is much more worthy of your creativity and financially lucrative. And when you mention culture group, that's a really important aspect of what you do. So y'all need to understand, I don't know how you have the time to do all of this, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about your, hustle hierarchy and how you're streamlining now, because for a while there, you just had your hand in everything. I remember you did as part of Culture Group, which explain to everyone what Culture Group is.
Yeah, it's culture brands
Oh,
and
excuse
culture
me,
brand.
Culture Brands.
Yeah,
Explain
no
to
problem.
everyone what Culture Brands is.
Yeah, so Culture Brands is a company that I really created and formed once I realized that there was a big opportunity for my skill set to be leveraged outside of just an influencer bag. And because I had the agency experience and the advertising experience and experience developing and producing content, I was like, I really need an infrastructure to support me beyond it just being me. And so Culture Brands exists in three buckets. One is our agency model, where we work with brands and organizations to produce culturally relevant campaigns. The other is our CPG model where we produce games. Really, that's kind of our thing right now. We love working on games. And so we've got culture tags and what's the word and reconcilable differences and more coming next year. But that's really us having a pulse on the culture, seeing where there's a need, and coming up with creative ways for us to celebrate one another and just have a great time. And so there's the CPG model. And then finally, there's the media platform, which is Because of Them We Can, and some of our other partners that we work with within this space to make sure that we're amplifying our stories and that they're getting out there and into the universe. So that's the culture, that's culture brands.
And it encompasses your professional life as a marketer, right? But like, for example, one of the things they did, I think, was it 2021, the Okay Hyundai uh, campaign.
Yes, yes, that is Hyundai's AA campaign currently still. It's still going
This
strong. But it is the
I
OK
may
Hyundai
or may
campaign.
not, I may or may not have bought a Hyundai because of this.
I love it.
Which is slightly embarrassing.
I love it. Listen. It's like the best kept secret that we don't want to be a secret anymore. Like they're really great cars. So we're happy. My agency and my team they're amazing and we're happy to work on that account. But yes, that is exactly what we do. We figure out like what's a way that we can speak to this audience, but even before speaking to this audience, vetting the companies that are coming to us to ensure that there are individuals that are worthy of being put in front of folks like you and me with our stamp of approval.
Yes, and all of this is wrapped up into you've got all these different ideas and you've got all these different skills. You do something very well, which a lot of us could learn by, is that none of this would be possible if you were trying to do it yourself. You couldn't go from because of Then We Can as just a campaign to a mega platform and brand with lots of pieces. You couldn't do that plus culture, brand, and all of the things that are encompassed within. You have what we all are trying to get used to building, which is a team. What was your journey from just you to team? Was it a
Yeah.
difficult one for you? Was it easy?
No, it wasn't difficult. I've always, even when I worked in corporate, I was building teams and hiring folks and training and doing things like that. And so I've always been a great team builder. But it was challenging from going from Because When We Can to working with friends and figuring out, hey, I need you to do this. Can you do it for me? Or hey, can you handle this? Or hey, can y'all chip in, to going from working with friends and family to actually, I need people who are well versed in certain areas and have certain experiences that they can bring to the table that can be held accountable to certain deliverables, certain benchmarks and KPIs that can help me execute my vision, but beyond execute it, enhance it. And so it's taken a while to get here. I've been at this now for 11 years. And I feel like recently I shared with my team, like, man, we figured it out. And I think it's really comes from understanding the F it, I'll do it, or, me, myself, and I mentality is not sustainable. It's not scalable and it's not healthy. And you got to be willing to work with other people, to test, to figure out like who's going to be a good fit for the culture and the environment that you're trying to build at Culture Brands. And even with Happy Hues, it's very clear, like we are very mission driven, we are purpose driven companies, and I have very high expectations of my team members as a result, because while we're not on the operating table or in the operating room, I do believe that the work that we're doing is unlocking possibilities in other people. And so it is serious as much as it is fun. And so, yeah, building the team has been challenging, but it's been one of the most rewarding things that I can say I've had the pleasure of doing looking back.
Well, and it's the only way you could get here. It's the only way you could get from a picture a day to a multinational baby brand. You can't do that. And it's interesting because I think in our community, we have so many solopreneurs. We have so many people with amazing ideas, self included, who just cannot figure out how to go from that to building the team. And that is a gap that causes a lot of great ideas to fall into an abyss.
100%. One of the things I've tweeted about this, I've said it often, and some people take it as shots, but it's not really a shot. It's just from my experience. I know that like there are tons of people can give you advice, like you need to hire an accountant, you need an attorney, you need an assistant, like 100%. But for me, I was a creative, right? And a creative though with like really good like leadership skills and organizational skills, but still I was like, if you're somebody who's really trying to grow your business and you're trying to go from like solopreneur to like all these other things, for me, the first thing I think you need is like a project manager, like somebody who is really going to take all of those ideas and help you to organize them and to create a plan of attack for how you put them in a universe, but also somebody who could be kind of like a liaison between you and the people or the clients that you're serving. Like you gotta have that. Like, yes, an assistant is important. Yes, an accountant is important. Like all those things are paramount, but you got to be able to organize all of the things that you have. And I've only learned that because I went from Unique Jones photography to Because When We Can. And so there are probably some Unique Jones photography clients that you could talk to today would be like, I hate her because I dropped the ball on projects because I just couldn't figure out how to juggle it all. And in retrospect, and in now being in this position and growing and, also being able to spot myself and other creatives, I'm like, oh, you need a project manager. Like that would just take a huge weight off of you and provide you with some iron to rub against to really understand like what's the most immediate, what can wait, what can I pursue now, what do I need to wait for more resources for or more, capital, whether that's in dollars or people. It'll just help you to kind of wrap around it. And so I kind of look back now, and Nancy, I'll tell you, I have people on my team that have been with me since 2015. So like I'm also a collector of like really good people. And in building a team though, I think one of the challenges is really understanding like when you've outgrown your team or when your team has outgrown you. And I think I've gotten to a space where the individuals that I'm locked in with, they're great, but also there are different paths of growth within Culture Brands or within the Happy Hues company where there's that iron that continues to sharpen one another. And I think one of the challenges that entrepreneurs have is, oh, that's my friend, we kind of started, they was helping me, and so I'm gonna keep finding a spot for them to do. No, that's actually not gonna work. Like you got to be realistic with yourself and with individuals. Like, hey, like I'm trying to get to level 10. If you're comfortable at level 6, there's a gap of 4 levels there that we've got to reconcile for, and so I can leave you here and we can still be cool, but like I'm gonna go here. And I think that's one of the other things that we miss as like entrepreneurs, like that we think that loyalty has to come at the expense of growth, and it doesn't.
It's like Michelle Obama says, some people just either don't want to or cannot make the climb.
Facts.
And so if people are listening to this, be like, I want to make the climb. What would you say? How does one find a project manager? Because that's the thing. It's just like, okay, that sounds great, but do you go on Indeed? Do they, I need project manager? How do you suggest individuals who have a company who have the funds? Because a lot of this, as you know, has nothing to do with not having the funds. It has to do with having no idea how to appropriately spend the funds. So if one's looking for a project manager, what do they do?
Yeah, it might even just be an amazing assistant who has project management experience, which all assistants who are amazing typically do. But I've benefited from it was Elance back in the day, and then they like merged, and now it's Upwork. Like Upwork is a great resource to find people. I think that LinkedIn is an amazing platform, not for creepy DMs, but for really figuring out like, okay, who are some individuals who are open to work, whose experience looks good. I can read some referrals and some recommendations. And then also, I'm the type of person, there's literally like 6 degrees of separation with almost 90% of the people at my company. I'm big on referrals. I'm big on, okay, so so and so is a good person, because the number one rule at Culture Brands and at Happy Hues is do great work, be a good person. I don't want you to do great work and be a horrible person. And I don't want you to be an amazing person and do horrible work. Like we got to have some balance. And usually, your friends and people within your network. And so I think that's a great place to start too. Just saying like, who do I know and who can I ask within my network if they have an amazing person that might be a great assistant, or if they have an amazing person that could help me kind of just like organize all of my thoughts and all of my projects so that I can execute them at a level of excellence while still trying to like grow and figure out what's next.
That's incredible. Okay, so everyone listening, this is easy. This is not as difficult as you may or may not be making it out to be. So you went from photography, you got it together, you've had this team in place for 11 years, you have now scaled to the point where you are literally helming a multinational brand, right? So how do we get there? Talk to us about your hustle hierarchy, because it's an evolution. What makes up right now the bulk of the time you spend on your business and your business income? Because I know that the beloved, because of Then We Can, the box, that's not in the cards right now. You have new games, not just culture tags. That's exciting. And of course, Happy Hues. Talk to us about the bulk of what's taking up your time right now.
Yeah, I split a lot of my time currently between Happy Hues is taking up the majority of my time, and my time
Understandably.
isn't relegated to 40 hours. in a week. I'm spending a lot of time on Happy Hues, but I also spend a lot of time with our agency partners. A lot of time is spent there, and just in terms of like being very, I feel like my role now is really to inspire my team and to set the vision and set the tone and the pace and to tell them and to work in partnership with them in terms of like what it is we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to get there. So every Monday morning, I'm holding a stand up where I'm talking to the team about the previous week or the previous month, and we're looking at the week ahead or the weeks ahead. And there's really just this march towards various goals across the business. But I would say Happy Hues agency and also like games is very big for us because there's just a wide open market, and we know that we have some really fun, whether it's board game, card game. We had a lot of great success with culture tags, but we don't believe in being a one hit wonder in that space. We think that there's just a lot of opportunity. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so uh, everything pretty much gets my attention, but it's definitely different percentages. But I've worked really hard on hiring great people and empowering them to lead and getting out of the way and being available when they need me, being a constant presence. I'm not a constant present. I'm not an absent CEO. I am very much in the weeds. I'm very much still tapped into Slack. I'm very much on team calls, but I'm also taking time aside and distancing myself so that I can work on vision planning and so that I can work on what does the next 2, 3 years look like and how do we get there.
The number one question after this incredibly insightful answer that is very, very laid out is how do you do all of this and be a mom of three children who look like, as my mom, they look like they've got a lot of care, and a wife and all the things and a good family member. I know you mentioned it's not 40 hours a week you're putting in.
Yeah, I think it's really, this is the family's tapped 100% in on the vision. So I think that's number one. Like from my husband to my baby girl Sage. She is oftentimes in the office. That's her aftercare program, right in the office, working on homework. This summer, my oldest son Chase was working in the warehouse and working on with his cousins when it came to boxing up items for the Target shipment. He's in one of those costumes as the Happy Hues crew characters. My son Amari is helping me test games. And so they're very much a part of the vision and they understand the goal. But I do a really good job, and it's taken time to get here, of knowing how to turn things off. And so I'm up really early. I get up about between 5 and 6 o'clock, and I'm in mom mode, right? I'm doing my daughter's hair. If her hair is braided, I did it. I'm not taking her to the shop. I'm corn rolling her hair. My boys have locks. I'm retwisting them. And so Amari's hair might look a little freeform sometimes, but he likes that.
That,
But
that's
that's
his
what the
choice.
that's his choice, and I'm really busy when that looks like that. But like it's important to me to do their hair. It's important to me to make sure that I'm taking my kids to school. We have three. They're in three different schools. I'm dropping my daughter off in the morning, then I'm coming home and I'm taking my youngest son to school, to middle school. I'm in the mix. There's no nanny, no help. I'm very much here, but I do also, I might be on my cell phone. I might be sending a message on Slack, sending an email. I might be in the midst of something. I might have to tell everybody to be quiet or go downstairs because I'm getting ready to do a podcast and I don't have time to go to the office. There is no balance. So I will, Tashonda Brown Duckett says this too. Like that whole thing is like a myth. There is no balance. Sometimes I am 80% business, 20% or 10% wife, 10% mom. Sometimes some weeks I'm 70% mom and wife, and then I'm 30% business. It ebbs and flows, but I also have a good pulse on needs, whether it's my kids, my husband, and also business, in order to be able to figure out the mix that works for us. Does that mean I work on the weekends? Yeah, it does. Does that mean sometimes I'm working nights? It does, but right now it works. And as long as I'm eating well, I'm getting my exercise in, I'm following my passion, my purpose. I ask my kids every month, do you feel like mommy's doing a good job? Is there anything that you need that you're not getting? Do you feel loved? Do you feel special? Those are constant questions I'm asking my kids because those are the KPIs. And then when it comes to my husband, it's constant communication. It might be constant therapy just to make sure that we're both hearing one another. But there's a constant, or there is a consistent thread and understanding in my home where we all know that we've got our hands on something special, and we're all excited to see where that leads. But we understand that family over everything above all.
I love that so much. And the vulnerability is so key. I'm constantly asking my kids to. I don't think it's a bad thing to ask for performance report from your kids because I would rather know now while I can fix the problems than later down
Please,
the road them talk about me in their therapy session like my mom wasn't
please,
there for me.
please, please
Oh,
let me know. Real
let me know.
time. Like we can address it now. If
We
you
can
wait
tweak.
and you're tweeting about me in 10 years, like, what,
Oh my
you
God.
know?
Absolutely not. And actually, it is your being a present mom that led to perhaps your biggest idea. I'm not going to say your best because who knows, But like as of now, it was being a present mom, changing your daughter's pull up that led you to this moment that we are in right now. Talk to us about the beginning of Happy Hues. What was happening? How did we get here? Because you were just coming up, you would come up with culture tags and Happy Hues at about the same time.
Yes, it's so crazy. Just wow. It's yes, I had come up with the idea for culture tags and was pursuing that quietly, just writing things down. But around the same time, I was changing Sage's pull up her training pants, and when I pulled it out the pack, it was Cinderella. And I tell everybody, I'm sure it was like Mickey Mouse or Ninja Turtles or something for my sons, but something about having a daughter, I was just like, yeah, no, like yeah, this is tough because we were working on affirmations, and I'm just like, well, just tonight, I would love to put something else on her. So I remember taking a picture of it and texting it to my husband because he had bought them, and I was like, hey, babe, do we have anything else? Do we have Princess Tiana? She loves Moana. Like, what do we have? And he's like, babe, that's it. He's like, they might do like Tiana on like a limited run, but they sell out really fast. And he was like, that's all we got. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, not only for Sage, but for like any child who doesn't see themselves in this Cinderella image. And I remember texting my mom or calling my mom the next day, like, hey, like, what did you? My mom was like, well, I did strawberry shortcake and I did mermaid. And I'm thinking of like what those characters look like. And I went in Sage's drawer and there's like Snow White. And I'm like, Dad, I watched Snow White as a kid. I'm like, this is crazy. Here I am traveling the country doing what we were calling reimagination labs at the time, where I would go into a classroom, I would take the Because and We Can book, I would have costumes and kids would dress up and I'd be like, find yourself in the book. And I talk about the importance of self-esteem and like knowing who you are and where you come from. And in that moment in my home holding those Cinderella training pants, I was like, all those kids started off putting on training pants and underwear, and they've been programmed to believe that like this is the default. Like these characters are the default and they have nothing to represent them as they're getting their sense of agency and independence, and that is flawed. And I could not get off of it. I was like, this has to change, not just for Sage, but I'm talking about for you know Asian children, Latino children, like all kids. Like we've got to create a system where the reason why we have a need for Because When We Can or a need for a Black Girls Rock is because we didn't practice community and seeing other images and normalizing differences at from 0 to 5. Those are the formative years. So what could we do outside of content to really help ingrain in children the fact that differences are to be celebrated and to be embraced? Like, boom, training pants, diapers, underwear. Like, that's how it hit me.
That's a great hit because it's one of those things where it's like once you see it, you can't unsee. But the thing is, it's hard enough to make a board game because that's people think, oh, it's just a board game. I'll get some printed and they'll even talk. No, hundreds of thousands of dollars are required to invest into just a board game. Now let's multiply that for a diaper because it's a whole different game, right? So like you knew this was a long game with these Happy Hues.
Oh, yeah. When I got the idea in 2019, I literally was sitting with two decisions. I had culture tags nobody knew about, and I had Happy Hues. It was a different name at the time, but I had Happy Hues and culture tags. And I knew from producing the book and journals that I could do paper products fairly easily. Like it's simple, not in terms of capital, but in terms of like minimum order quantities, MOQs. Like I was like, I could get this done. Like we can do a little Kickstarter to raise some funds, get the community involved, and that's simple. But then I was like, diapers, training pants, wipes, that is regulation. That is research and development. I know I am a snob when it comes to what touches my child's skin. I don't want any diaper rashes. Like, I don't want to deal with anything like that. And so I knew I was going
You
to
don't
be
want your
running.
name dragged to the mud,
I
them
did
raggedy
not want to
diapers.
be doing
Like,
them raggedy, beady diapers. I knew I shouldn't have supported. I was like, I'm not
no.
rushing this. I was like, I'm not going to rush it. I need to do the research and development. I need to make sure that I cross check everything with the attorneys. I do not want to get a lawsuit from one of these bigger brands by infringing on a patent. And so there was just money needed just to explore it. And so what I thought was, you know what? I'm going to launch culture tags. I'm going to leverage the funds that come from culture tags to invest in the R&D for Happy Hues. And as crazy as it sounds, that is exactly what happened.
And when you got to the R&D stage, you realized, yep, I was right.
Oh, 100%. I was like, yeah, smart, go slow. Like, did the idea like haunt me? And was I like, I need to do this or I want to get it done? Absolutely. But there were also times where I remember talking to my line sister who also works with me and some other folks. And I remember saying, like, this idea is like, this is too big. Like, I don't think I can do it. And then being like, no, you got to keep going. And so, yeah, the R&D phase really made it clear that I needed to do it, but that we needed to dot I's and cross T's. And, it's why I was in China earlier this year, like walking the manufacturer floors.
We don't have time for this on this episode, but at some point we do need to hear your story of going to China because I think it's such you because of you we can go to China because they're not used to seeing people who look like us trying to create such an incredible product. When you first started with Culture Tags, with Because of Them We Can, you were just up at night on Google, going to Alibaba and emailing people, and they did not know who was on the other side. What was their expectation of who they were speaking to?
Yeah, so when I first started, 100%, I was on Google, I was on Alibaba, I was literally on YouTube. I was checking every resource that I could to find vendors and I was really faking it, right? Like acting as if I knew what I was doing when I was trying to produce the book or when I was trying to do by the time I was doing the cards, I was pretty well versed having done the Because When We Can box. I knew what I was doing by that point, but I had never visited. A good friend of mine, one of my mentors, she visits like annually and she's like, you gotta go, you gotta come with me. But then COVID hit, so it just like disrupted all of that. But I knew that it would be important to go because you're absolutely right. What the internet has done is really just removed barriers and allowed us to do business all over the world. Like even with Happy Hues, my animators are in Nigeria. Like I've never been to the continent yet. And so it does allow us to extend those bridges. But I knew that for Happy Hues, it was super important for me. I felt like as a mother to be able to look other mothers in the face and in the eye and say like, I know exactly what I'm selling you. Like, I know exactly what I'm providing. I have gone out, I have vetted it outside of being on the phone or being on WhatsApp or being on videos. I've actually walked these floors. I've set standards. Like there's a standard of excellence that we have personally traveled 16 hours across the world to go and to put in place. And I knew that that was going to be important so that I could sleep well at night as a mother, wanting to know that somebody else did that on my behalf. And so it was super important to go. And it was also life-changing for me to be there and to really understand the magnitude of what we were doing, but to be able to talk about terms and vision and planning for the future that allowed them to understand that this is not just a typical person who just stumbled across us on the internet. This is somebody who's done a lot of good in the world thus far and that we want to partner with long term in the future.
I love this. And this partnership has led you to getting an account that can actually make the demand of diapers needed for your national launch because you just entered Target very recently and already numbers are very impressive.
I mean, the numbers are good. The numbers are good. I don't know. I don't know what's been shared with you, but so far,
I
yeah.
saw the video that it was sold out.
Oh yes, so yes, we have been selling out of stores, but no, we Target's happy with our performance out the gate. We're happy with our performance. We're not content, and we're not satisfied. We want more, but yeah, it's going well. Like it's resonating with the people. People are seeing it, and they understand that it speaks to them in a way that's very different and unique. Seeing big ups and understanding that that in itself is an affirmation, or seeing wipe me downs and just getting that millennial nostalgia, like yo, I that feels like it's for me. And so
It's literally the best. Who came up with the brilliant name Big Ups? I need to know.
I
Who
did.
came up? I love you. It is the best thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I did. I came up with big ups and wipe me downs, and I think what's great is I am a true and true creative, but I have an amazing team that literally I can say, yo, we need go getters and cutlers and wipe me downs, or we have the trademark now for baby shower approved, and we own the .com, and so like we have all of that, but none of all of it would just be words on paper without having an amazing team, from creative to people who are doing strategy and planning, or people who are working through like forecasting and business development. All of it would just be words without having a team to really coalesce around these ideas and help me to bring it to fruition. And so I'm excited that people are getting to see what we've been working on so hard and so quietly for the last 5 years come to fruition, and understanding that like the same is true and can happen for anybody if you just like double down on your dreams, but also like triple up on your hustle and your ability to create a team that can help you get whatever it is you're trying to create into the universe.
And it's exciting to see a CEO respect the team, right? Like the team, and they respect you in turn. Like you all just won a bunch of awards for your marketing campaign for Happy Hues, and you tag these people, and they're excited because they're out there trying to get their things started too. I think that's really important. I think that you are incredible. We could talk forever, but our hour is almost up. I cannot, however, let you leave without participating in my favorite segment, which I call Mompreneurs Manifestation. And that's where I ask all of my guests what's next for you, or what you're hoping comes next, and how we can all help to manifest success in this endeavor for you.
I want the Happy Hues Company to be a household name. I think that it has massive potential beyond the United States. And I really want it to be a household name where when people think about joy and representation and inclusivity as it pertains to a baby essentials company, that the first thing that comes to mind is the Happy Hues Company.
I love it. Tell everyone where they can find all about everything you do, but in particular, Happy Hues, and what is currently being sold, and what's on the market to be coming soon, and where they can get it.
Yeah, so happyhues.com or bigups.com, if that's easier. It'll route you to the same place, is where you can find everything. It'll direct you to Target. It'll direct you to the store finder so that you can identify the stores in your area that are carrying Wipe Me Downs and Big Ups. Target.com is going to have our diapers, which are cutlers and go-getters. And then you can follow us on social media at The Happy Hues Co.
Love that. Okay, you heard her, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and watching to Mompreneurs. And thank you, Eunique, for being here. You're absolutely incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, just a reminder, everyone, a brand new episode comes out each week, every Monday, live on Urban One Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit urban1podcast.com to learn more. That's urban1podcasts.com. Mompreneurs is brought to you by the Urban One Podcast Network and MadameNoire. Created, produced, and hosted by me, Nancy Wren. Executive produced by Sarita Wesley, Allison McGovna, and Tanya Hoffler-Moore. Produced and edited by Jiminique Miller.